Yo, what they do. I'm your host, Aaron J. Jackson, also known as Marvin Bay. I welcome you to the 48th episode of the Behind the Beard podcast, presented by the FGO Network. And right here, we got a special guest. He go by the name of Loft. For the people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Loft Blue, Brooklyn, New York, recording artist, musician, spoken word, MC, poet. Born and raised New York City, currently living in Brooklyn, home base, and ready to talk about my process and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. So, we were just talking about earlier how, last year, how COVID was, crazy and shit. But how's 2021 has been treating you so far?
2021 has been good. I think for the most part, it's been a space for not even myself, but also other artists to kind of reevaluate and really get an understanding of their process and their work. Mm-hmm. Being that a lot of things closed down, being that a lot of things aren't really relevant, I think now the only thing for artists to actually focus on is their artistry and just how they curate their work.
Right. I feel like 2020 alone, by us being inside, gave us kind of a juice. Looking back at it now, I don't know about you, but for me, I kind of looked at a lot of research, did a lot of research on things that I didn't know and apply it to my art. Would you say the same, or you would just?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gave me more time to kind of listen to older music and music mm-hmm. that I wouldn't normally have time to listen to before the pandemic, because living in New York is like a ongoing hamster wheel, you know what I'm saying? So you kind of lose time more faster than you understand and realize that it's gone already. So definitely going back in terms of research and being able to dig deeper into more inspirations and also find newer artists or just artists in general that you may not have the time to dig into their discography and figure out if they would add value to your presentation. Right.
So jumping gears, you talk about being from Brooklyn and living in Brooklyn. Were you born and raised in Brooklyn? Or?
Yeah, born and raised in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Grew up on McDonough Street in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, and moved over to Malcolm X. I spent the majority of, I want to say, the first 16, 17 years of my life in Brooklyn. So I've watched it change dramatically. I've been in Brooklyn when the gang culture was at its peak. Growing up and being from Brooklyn in the 90s and kind of learning how to maneuver within that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So talk about your upbringing growing up in Brooklyn. You seen Brooklyn go from where you said from back in the days into now. How was your upbringing growing up at those times?
Yeah, growing up in Brooklyn before, I mean, coming single mom, mama love holding it down. It was either she had to kind of take care of us or go to work. Right. You know what I'm saying? So she had to provide and do what she had to do. And for me, I had to more or less be a man child. You know what I'm saying? So kind of
growing up early.
Growing up early, learning how to cook for myself early, learning how to travel 2, 3, 4 trains or buses just to get to school or come home from school. So fortunate enough, my mom had a lot of trust in how I handled myself, and I was able to reciprocate that by being upfront and maneuvering. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn was a little bit more rough and tough, but I think it was only for the people that lived on the outside, because I think even though it was I've seen violence, I've seen a whole lot of things shape Brooklyn, New York, but when you inside the community, you can actually feel the community presence instead of feeling like you're amongst a threat.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely changed from how it was then versus to how it is now.
And I'm glad you talked about that community, because community, if you think about it back then, at least where I come from as well, I think all the neighborhoods across everywhere, the community. I had a conversation with somebody a couple of months ago. They was talking about how back then, their certain families would look after other people's families and shit like that. They know that, look, you can spend the night in my house or whatever the case may be. Your mom is at work. Don't worry about that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy how time changed, but back then, community was a thing. That was a key element, especially in the black communities. Where we come from. So hearing that that brings me back into like everything in the past, because back then was just so like it was just so fun too at the same time. So how did you get into like making music over time while growing up?
Damn, it's crazy, man. Growing up in the hood, I mean, like that's what I'm gonna call it. What it was then.
Right.
You either sold drugs, you either play basketball, you either play football, or you rapped. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized like there was other options in order for you to kind of like express yourself in. But I played ball growing up, broke my leg and going into high school, so I knew that was done. Grades wasn't good enough to be on a football team.
Right.
And music, by default, I've grown up listening to Jay-Z on the radio. Probably one of the most memorable moments I had was when he dropped Dear Summer, and Funk's played that maybe 3-4 times in a row. Or just one thing that Brooklyn had a long time ago that it doesn't really have anymore was block parties.
Wow.
Block parties was a thing where literally they'll shut the block down from 8 in the morning to about 7 at night, and then everybody will come outside, the music would blast, but like by default, outside of the sirens and the chaos and like the violence that went on, there was always a place for music that was all that always set the tone for being able to enjoy yourself, get over a hard time.
Right.
If you didn't really have food, if the apartment was too cold and you ain't had no heat, you know what I'm saying, like you would listen to anything from jamming oldies to Marvin Gaye to Biggie. You know what I'm saying, and that's definitely been the root of my whole being and coming into the whole artistry of music.
Right. Wow. That just hearing it, because we're in New York, so I'm from down south, so just hearing it from a New York perspective on how like you got into music, talking about how like it wasn't no heater and stuff like that, like that's like equivalent to us not having like AC in like the cribs or whatever, because y'all have it more it's more colder at some seasons. Y'all have probably all 4 seasons versus like we just have 1 season. But you talked about Jay-Z coming up, like that was like one of your inspirations or just what you were listening to. Who were the other musicians you were listening to over time that got you inspired as well?
I mean, I would say growing up I listened to Mace, Fabulous. Busta Rhymes was one of the artists of my time that had the most creative music videos that I kind of looked up to and kind of felt like I wasn't just watching the music video, it was much more of a person being in character of his element. Jay-Z by default, because he ran New York at that time then. A lot of Tupac. But that came once like the person my mom was dating at the time introduced me to a lot of Tupac, because he was a go hard Tupac guy. But I mean, growing up in music videos. I mean, like
BT
I definitely remember music videos coming on, me getting the VCR tape, hitting record, playing all like literally.
You got niggas don't remember them days, boy.
Yo, like for real, like just pressing record and then rewatching it, and then if time go past, hopefully Mama Loving found that I was recording over one of her tapes or something that she did like and enjoy. You know what I'm saying, so it definitely was the ability to be able to consume music and rewatch it over and over, not only from a audio perspective but the visual aspect teaches you a lot about, even for yourself with being a photographer. And I'm saying like a lot of music videos that you've probably watched as a kid and growing up taught you how to view the world differently outside of your reality of going to school and so forth.
Would you say, like, speaking of visuals, would that has an element towards your work of creativity of how you shoot your videos? Because you're very artistically in your videos, I noticed.
Yeah,
and I mean, very detailed oriented as well too.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of videos now, I mean, they're definitely good videos, but I feel like they all gravitate towards the same aspect of what makes a music video. But there's a lot of creative ones too. For me, I just like to simplify on all the things that usually create a music video, and I want people to kind of look at the artist and actually listen to what's being said and the message. Because I think more than anything is you can always go online and see a bunch of cool, dope videos, but how often you'll be able to watch a video that's not so much going on, and it kind of forces you to view the artist and understand the artist's way of how he views reality.
Right. So jumping gears, so you were listening to music, like you was full throttle listening to music. How did you become a listener into actually making music?
Damn, I mean, like, once again, going back to, you have 4 options growing up: basketball, football, musician, or you sold drugs. For me, I've always, I mean, it was interesting. My cousins lived in Brooklyn. I would go visit them on the other side of Bed-Stuy. And I remember we would put on Dipset beats, just instrumentals, and we would play Dreamcast. And, like, we would just freestyle just for fun. And, like, I remember my first freestyle was, it was like, I played basketball 24/7. I wonder if I die, do they got a court in heaven? I'm like maybe like 10, 11. To us, that was like the hardest shit we ever heard growing up. So I've always stayed in the pocket of being able to understand music and write it down, since I've also been fascinated with just poetry and being able to write lyrics. There's a special place for me in terms of understanding wordplay. I mean, and I think a big part of it also too, just being from Brooklyn. Brooklyn is, I mean, to me, my opinion, one of the best boroughs to live in. And we are like the borough where all the smooth talkers. You know what I'm saying? So
that's how I feel about Liberty City back home.
I mean, so just being able to smooth talk just on a day-to-day with just life, with women. There's a certain kind of wordplay in how you understand it. So being able to translate that into music, or translate that into a way of life of how people understand you and how they view you, that's a strong element to have.
Right. So when, let's just say, like, when you present a beat, how do you, like, what's your process like when it's presented to you, like, and while you writing your songs? Yeah,
it's more or less of a feeling, I would say. Immediately, it would sort of be like, if you, I mean, I can make an example to like a woman. If you see a woman that you really like, or she smells really good, automatically, if you smooth in just how you navigate, you'll automatically have a feeling in terms of how you want to talk to her. So it's the same thing how I view it on a instrumental that I receive. It'll probably most 9 out of 10 times I'll just mumble to myself, and I'll get kind of like the melody or the tempo or the certain pocket of how I would like to engage with the instrumental. But it usually is like a flow. It's like literally like a water flow. I kind of have this OCD as well too. Like, I fucking think so fast, and my words are always overlapping each other. So for me, it's just a spill of being able to orchestrate the words and then kind of rearrange it to what makes more sense. But I genuinely feel like a kid writing a song. I mean, to me, it's like just as exciting of going to a new girl house or something like that. It's like you it's something you haven't touched yet, but you know once you engage with it, it'll be something special that you'll have forever.
Right. So by you saying that, would you say it's very therapeutic when you in that element or when you're in that mode creating, your music or your songs or while you're writing that process?
Yeah, I mean, to me, time doesn't really exist in that process. Time is really irrelevant in a sense. I could sit down. I mean, there's be times I sit down and I'm writing to a song and I'm hungry, but I don't even process the reality of me having to go eat. I'll just stay locked into that because to me, that's more fulfilling than me breaking that kind of like lock in to go sit down and enjoy a meal and take me out of the mind state. So I'd much rather keep that feeling that I'm engaged in and stick to that, right, and see how far I can go with it. But like if I got a song and I'm writing 3 verses, I'll probably write 2. I mean, and then if I do have to step out, I'll only have 1 left, and I'll have damn near 70% of a song that'll get me back to that emotion, being that I'm reciting it over and over and over again.
Right. So how would you describe your music style overall?
Man, I actually thought about this recently. Music style would be a pimp mixed with, I don't really like to name any artists, but like Andre 3000 and like Gil Scott Heron. I'm saying like just that tone of being able to communicate where it doesn't feel too harsh on the ears, but at the same time it has a beautiful enough tempo for you to enjoy it. So I make music that you can listen to if you want to wake up in the morning listening to music, if you want to go prepare, you want to meet a shorty, you want to just have downtime, or you biking, or you just want to listen to something smooth.
Right.
Yeah,
I can see that though. I get that. You got me on the Android 3000 because I was actually listening to Ancestors this morning, and I was just like, wow, like it's like with your music, you gotta really pay attention every detail, like especially the visuals, like because you can literally get lost in the visuals with your music. So it's like you bring a package, and what I noticed, you bring a package towards every little detail that you do. I even noticed the cover, like from it was called Acapella Dweller. Yeah, like. It's like that's why I think that's why I end up following you, because it's like your aura, the way your style is, like everything is detail oriented, and the fact that you mentioned it is like, yeah, you hit it right there in the T when it comes down to that. But on a day-to-day basis that you live here, what inspires you throughout the days? Is going to New York or just Brooklyn as overall?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time alone. Also too, because I'm not intrigued or fascinated by a lot of things. I mean, like the hype and fabrication shit don't really move me. I probably spend a lot of time biking through New York City. If anybody really ever sees me, really, I'm on the move and I'm floating. I like to people watch a lot. Also because the things I talk about is real life. And this is going into something that my mama asked me a long time ago, because I remember I told her I was like 15, I wanted to be a rapper, and she asked me the hardest question I've ever been asked in my life. She said, what'd make you different from every other rapper? She was like, Fabulous got the FABOLOUS, and Hove got the It's Your Boy Jigga. I'm saying, and like that was a very confusing question at the time, because I really didn't know too much of myself in the artistry realm of what direction I was going. And I remember I performed in a city pre-pandemic, and my mom came to maybe like my 3rd or 4th show, and I was able to answer that question on stage, and like it was just me being myself. You know what I'm saying? Like being myself and who I was truly as an artist is something that no one can copy. And even if they find a way to copy it. If you're being yourself, you're also evolving and growing every single day. So it's very difficult for someone to copy something that you're still learning about yourself.
Right.
So that has had me to be able to make the music I've made and not be kind of compared to another artist, because I feel like it would be more of a disservice to my tribe of people that's listening, and also to myself, if I work so hard to find my pocket and what makes me feel comfortable, and then to be compared to somebody because I wouldn't say inspired by how they kind of do their own thing, but I think individuality is a very important thing, especially in music, especially in New York City, because it's so much of a embrace for other people to ride trends and kind of like get big off of that.
Right.
I'm saying, if I was holding this conversation with Mama Love the other day, because she always asks about my work and stuff, and I tell her all the time, I said it would be so much more easier for me to be this popping artist, quote unquote, if I was on social media. I show how I live, I dressed up, and I posted all the time for my outfits, but at the same time, that's not why I want to be present to people. I want to give people something lyrically that they can listen to. The power of music is being able to change people's lives, shift your emotion if you're having a shitty or bad day. And for me, I'm playing the long game. I mean, like I'm playing for legacy.
Right.
I mean, not too keen on the quick blow up.
Right.
Might be rambling, but
no, you good.
I had a mentor named Shingo from Japan, and he asked me. He said, "Do you know why Picasso was so great?" And at the time when he asked me the question, I didn't really understand it. Maybe like 4 years ago, and he said, "Because Picasso had a lot of work." And for me, the longer it takes for just the world to understand what I'm working on, it's kind of better, because it's sort of like, just say for instance, one of my next 3 records blow up really big. When people look back in a discography, they'll see, oh shit, he got an album I didn't know about. He got 2 singles he didn't know about. Oh, he got 4 mixtapes on SoundCloud. So like that as a whole, for someone to, it's like finding a treasure chest.
Right.
I'm saying, so it's definitely something I look forward to, and I don't get discouraged by the long game of how it goes, because I'm in this like just for me first and foremost, but more or less for the people that embrace what I'm doing.
Right. And it's like you put yourself in like from a perspective of people that really consume music, that are fans of different musicians. You kind of like, you want to hear like, okay, I know the main albums that I love, but what's the other ones that I don't get to hear as often? It's like vinyls, you dig, and then once you see that one, like, oh, I gotta hear this. Right, what I'm saying? So that kind of reminds me of like that. But so as an artist overall, what would you say are the challenges of being an artist like yourself?
Oh man, going through the emotions, man. I think like I put more money into this. I mean, like, it looked cool, but the amount of investing into yourself that you have to do, you know what I'm saying? Like inside Neptune, I mean, I speak about the cool guy never really want to put in work. You know what I'm saying? Like it's everybody want to look good right away. I mean, but I think everyone, no matter what you do starting out, you got to go through the corny stage when ain't nobody paying attention. You got to go through the stage when people are still confused about what you want, what you're doing. And I think I did have an issue with just trying to figure out how I felt. But I think just me staying as original in myself every day is something that inspires me, because I get to listen to other things and it don't really I mean, it definitely adds, but it doesn't take anything away from my progress and growth. I'm saying, like, I know people that get discouraged because there might be somebody else that's in the same range of artistic expression and they doing way better than them, may be younger than them, may look like they live in a certain lifestyle, but in no reality, like, you don't know what that person goes through.
Right.
That person don't know what you go through, and I wouldn't trade my situation for anybody's situation that I think is living a better lifestyle, because everything comes with its rotten apples.
Right.
And long as you're building up your reflection, that would be my hardest thing as an artist.
Right.
It's just reflection, just knowing who you are. A lot of my music rotates around just who I am as a person, how I feel on a day-to-day. So definitely hoping that the music touches and connects people that go through the same shit as depression, learning how to love themselves, learning how to be there for others, and keeping an open mind and an open heart.
Most definitely. So let's dive into your recent project, Acapella Dweller.
Right.
How did that project come about, and what was your creative process making it?
Oh man, I made, I believe, 3 or 4 projects on SoundCloud, and I knew my engineer. Shout out my engineer at Major Theory. I've known him for maybe like 10 years, and I would go to his space in Brooklyn because I still record like in the hood in Brooklyn, no fancy studio, and I'm saying, like, I still record with him. And I remember going to his studio, recording the session. I mean, like, we knew each other, but it wasn't like chopping up. I'll call him, yeah, I got this song I want to do. I go to the studio, record, mix, I'll leave. Next song, record, mix, I leave. And I realized I actually wanted to take all this to the next level, and I wanted to make an album. So I remember being 4 songs into my album, same thing, recording, mixing, leave. And something felt off to me. I knew that the process should feel a little bit more like I'm working with family. So I remember coming back. I remember telling him scratch the 4 songs. And I remember sending him a long text and just letting him know, like, yo, man, I really want to do this thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm willing to go broke. I'm willing to put in my last dollar over this just so that I can make this thing happen. Because it's literally all I've ever really, truly understood, even though I'm into a whole bunch of other art stuff. Like, this is one thing that I could understand and that nobody could take away from me. And he kind of felt that and understood that message that I sent. But I think that initiative step of me being able to express my vulnerability of where I was at a point in my life and knowing I didn't want to continue living paycheck to paycheck or just having to struggle and figure out what works for me. We've been able to build a relationship and create this project called Acapella Dweller. So it turned into just me going to record, mix, go home, to me going to the studio, maybe talking for an hour and a half, 2 hours, getting into the recording, coming out of the studio booth, sitting down, talking about the process. And that to me felt more of like a full 360 process that allowed me to kind of create this thing between me and my engineer. Because I feel every great artist has their go-to engineer that they can vibe with, that can mix their records, that understand that I might want reverb as soon as I walk in the booth. So, yeah, it's hope I answered that question too.
I'm very intrigued because I listened to it and then it was like I could tell you took your time with it. Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't just like any other project, because even like I said back then, it was very detailed and you could hear it through the sound as well. How long did it take to complete the whole project?
Oh man, that was probably the most conflicting part. Just coming from Brooklyn, it ain't too many people that help you on things. And one thing I would love to say to other artists, you got to get out the mindset of trying to do everything yourself. I remember,
man, I think that's the hardest part.
Yo, man, like literally when I scratched the 4 songs, I said, fuck it, I'm gonna go buy laptop, get Pro Tools, I'm gonna get me a microphone stand, and then reality hit me and was like, oh shit, I might be learning how to do this for about a year and a half, when I got somebody who's been doing this for 12 plus years. And that's when I sent him, around the time I sent him that message to go, yo, we could do this together.
Right.
Know what I mean? And we could really make this thing happen. So I got out of that element of I can do it myself, and then I noticed who was actually there to help me. And like that's been a very vital thing for me now. So I have a small team now with people that just believe in my process and allow me to make decisions and support decisions and give opinions. So being able to work amongst different people without that ego being in the way, that pride being in the way, playing that tug of war and being open to options has helped just my growth as an artist tremendously.
Right. That's wild, because just hearing that perspective of, it's kind of like really working smart, not hard, like of like getting people different resources to help you out and build that project for yourself. What would you say has to be your favorite track from the project?
Okay. Also going back, it took me about a year and like 7 months to finish the entire project. Going in from recording and canceling and coming back and recording everything over. Favorite record on the album?
I know it's kind of hard.
Okay, I would say I have 2 answers. Production wise, I'll give you my favorite record, and lyrically, my favorite record that I love. My most fun record that I appreciate on the album has to be Ultra Gold. No, lyrically Ultra Gold, because that was actually the last song that I wrote for my album.
Wow.
And that's why because it was this huge reflection thing. Just even in the intro of the song, I said, if I rap about my life, would you view me different? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like being able to be vulnerable to people and having them being able to accept that, aside from who they thought or think you are as a person. Right. You know what I mean? And then letting them into your world that way. So just from a lyrical and just being open and honest with people would be Ultra Gold, which is track number 1. And I think my second fun record would be probably Green Kool-Aid.
Wow. Why is that?
Because that was a song that I sat down with, shout out Kalen, PR Perspective. He used to come to my apartment in Lower East Side when I was living in the city. And he would come over maybe like 2-3 times a week. And I remember him playing a song for me. And I remember immediately going, I like this. Mm-hmm. So I remember writing to the song. Maybe it took me about like 3-4 days. 'Cause at the time I was having my herb and enjoying myself. Living in the city is so much like distractions and stuff going on. So me actually sitting with the song and doing the song and then going to record it, and then just that string is that it's a certain string in it that sounds similar to like what Dr. Dre would use and like The Chronic or something like that. Right. It gave me more of like a laid back East Coast combined with like the West Coast kind of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. What would you say has to be your favorite thing about recording while you in the studio, or just overall?
Best thing about recording. The best thing about recording that I've accomplished, I'm gonna add on to that, would be staying in my personal space, creating a song, and then going to the studio and it sounding the same way, and if not even better in recording. I think there's a relationship that needs to be made with the microphone and just voice. I'm so keen on just the clarity and how I pronounce words and understanding the different ranges of how close, how far I need to be for the microphone. So a lot of like my SoundCloud music, I was figuring out my tone of how I wanted to sound,
right?
How close I wanted to be to the microphone, because that changes a lot versus when it starts to get mixed and mastered, and it changes so much from a technical thing. So
my bad to cut you off, but
yeah.
Do you think that by you, like, you know, because I know most musicians, they kind of mumble at the first go around when they get used to the song or whatever, does that has a role into that?
To be honest, my OCD that I have plays a role. I don't go to the studio and record a song unless I know it by heart. So
that makes sense.
So like literally, because for me, holding the phone in the booth, you don't really get as much intimate movement. But if you know the record off the top, you can close your eyes. You can kind of move your body. You can kind of sway. You can laugh. You can feel yourself, and it's just a bit more. It's a bit more of a organic feeling for me.
Right. So I got a few more questions left. So what's next for you?
Oh man. Next for me, I just got me PR. Got me some PR.
It's up for now.
Word. Got me some PR. I mean, I pretty much got the rest of my year planned out musically. I will be releasing a few more records, and then I'm gonna go hiatus until my EP early next year. I will be. I mean, Acapella Dweller to me is the root, so it's a classic in just my book of artistry.
It's always the baby. That's the baby.
But like the direction that I'm going and musically and sonically of how my next project is going to sound is going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful. So I'm excited to work with that, working with a producer that's out in Canada.
Wow.
So the aesthetic and sound it's in a pocket of where I want to take my music, and it'll be more of a universal feeling. I'm going to bring a feeling back that I've grew up on.
So you have any advice for someone that wants to do the similar path that you took in this music game, or just overall as a person?
Yeah, I would just say something I read recently. It says the thing that you are seeking is seeking you. And I would just say that to say, just lock in on something you love, man. Even if you have 3-4 things that you love, if you pick one and lock in on it, the other 2 or the other 3 or the other 4 tie in eventually. This is probably the most discouraging thing you can do, is get into a process when you're believing in something that you love, because you're going to go through the emotions of not feeling good enough. You're going to go through the motions of maybe this shit ain't going to work. You're going to go through the motions of not knowing if you should continue. You're going to go through the motions of people not acknowledging you for who you want to become. But I think when you stick on anything long enough and people believe your story, they'll pay for anything, man. Right. So it's really about just the consistency, the consistency, all the emotions that you have, self-doubt, discouragement, and hatred, whatever you have bottled up inside of you, put that into your work, because on the other side, there's somebody that feels exactly like you, or who has felt exactly like you, so they'll be able to reciprocate or just reconjure that emotion, and it'll help them connect and vice versa.
Right. So, how can the people get a hold of you?
Instagram is the Loft Blue, TheLoftBlue, all one word. You can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/LoftBlue, all one word once again. And Spotify, Apple Music, all streaming platforms. Loft Blue, LoftBlue. You can check out my debut album, came out July 3rd, 2020. You can check out Vibe, my single, and my recent single that I just put out called Neptune. And I have something special coming also in June.
Mm-hmm. And we'll put everything on the description as well. But yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on the show and actually get to vibe with you and connect with you as well too, man.
Yo, massive peace and love.
Much love. So, episode 48. I see you guys next week, and we out.